So here's a fun project. It's a hand vase, literally a hand, with a little tube in here holding the flowers or whatever. And this fits on the wall like that. So this is the bit we're going to be making. And I'm using lime wood. That's a nice light wood, but you could use anything that's fairly plain and carvable, mahoganies or even oak. Nothing too figured, because it's a simple light and shadow sort of carving. And it is a carving, it's not modelling, so there's a degree of stylization going on here. I would say that to really sort of understand what's going on in your own hand, and it is your hand that you're going to use as a model, you do want to look up some anatomy. Keep it fairly simple, you don't need nerves and things, but basically what is it we're looking at that is reflected on the surface? You know, what are these knobs, what's going on here, and so on. It will really help, but most importantly the thing is to pay attention to what you're looking at and try and hold that in your mind, in your hand, as you go to the carving. So you're going backwards and forwards. It's a little bit tricky, but I think you'll agree that it's a good fun project and definitely worth the trouble. Anyway, we'll start at the beginning, as always, and I hope you enjoy it. The whole project orientates around the glass tube. This is a test tube, which you can find online quite readily. It's about half an inch, 15mm diameter. And I like it because it's got a little lip on the top, and that stops it falling through the hole. So that's my test tube. Now if you choose a bigger tube than that, like say something like this, as an example, when you fold it in your hand, do you see your hand doesn't close over it? So you will have to carve, unless you fudge it in some way, you'll have to carve all that here. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is actually use this smaller tube so that I'm wrapping my hands quite close, and the only thing I might separate would be this little bit at the bottom here. So that's why I've chosen a small tube. So having found your tube, the next thing to do is to find a drill that will create the hole in the wood for the tube to go. So I'm using an auger bit, and again you can buy these online, quite specifically a millimetre at a time, so you can find one that will be just a shade bigger than the tube that you're using. This one will pull itself into the wood with this screw end here, and then give you quite a nice parallel hole. So this is a good bit to use. So the thing about the size is my little practice piece of wood. So I bored this out here. The size for the tube is slightly over. Yeah, there's a little bit of movement in there, although it won't fall through like that. And the reason I want that is because I don't trust this wood not to move and shrink and change. And if it's up tight, it might crunch the glass and break it. So I've got to allow a little bit of space. But this, you can see, drops through. Now, if you don't want the tube like that in your hand, but you want it sticking up a little bit, then you're going to have to put a little sort of collar around here. And the easiest way to do that is something soft like a bit of masking tape. And we would just put it on here like this. So wrap that a few times around there. Exactly how much you need will depend on, you know, the hole and so on, but let's say it's something like that. And then that will sit in there, you see, and hold it in position without it being in danger of cracking. So that's a good idea. So right, so having found your tube, tested your drill bit here, the next thing to do is to get a pattern of our hand so we can put that into the wood. I'm going to decide first of all how I'm going to hold the tube, where my thumb is going to be, and so on. So once I've decided that, I've got to keep that position. And a good idea would be to take some photographs, just brief, quick photographs of the different angles. So you would take a photograph from here, from the front and the back, from the top. So you've got these different positions, so you can see you've got a reference, but also you can see if you're moving your hand at all. Because you're going to have to keep referring to this. You can do it left hand, of course. It doesn't really matter. So having decided that's how you're going to hold it, have the tube sticking out a little bit, top and bottom, and then place the hand on your piece of paper like this. Now the first thing you realise is, of course, that this hand is not in the same position quite. So you tend to flatten it, but keep it somewhere about right. And then with a pencil, just go round like this. And here, just vertically like this. And notice where the test tube comes out here like this. So you'll have a bit of a drawing like that. So what I would do now is I'd be generous and I'd give myself a little room and I'd make a sort of shape like this. So extra all the way around. So this can come like this. This can come like this here. Across there and down there like this. So that now is, I'm being quite generous with wood because I'm not, I'm not quite sure how things are going. So I'm fattening it up to give myself room to play with. And then across here, quite importantly, this is the line here that the test tube went through like there. That's where the test tube was. So we've got that as our working drawing this way. It's our silhouette for the hold. But what about the width? The width of this wood? Well, what I would do here is I would put my hand again round about where I think it'll be. And you can take your set square like this and you can just come down like so and get a sense of where that might be. And again, whatever this says, allow a little bit of wood. So this is saying 2 3/4 inches, 70 mil. So I would add another 5 mil, another 1/4 inch, make it 3 inches. So when you've done that, find yourself a piece of wood. Stick out the paper, stick the paper on there, and you can see here's my original hand where it was. There's my passing through. In fact, it's this way up. There's a test tube passing up, and there's the thickness of the wood. And I've made it extra long here because I'm going to be holding this in the vise and carving this bit. So this is your starting point with this block, with the pattern on it. Here's my line of the tube, runs like that, comes out the bottom, comes from the top. And what I'm going to do is take that line and with a square, mark that across like that. I've already marked the bottom, but it's like there. And then put the same line on the other side. So I've got it on both sides now so that I can see it there on the right. So make sure you know which one's the top, keep an eye on that, which one's where your thumb will go. And the next thing I need to decide is where exactly on this line is that going to go. Well, this is a little bit hit and miss, which is why I've given myself lots of spare wood. So just looking at how my hand might sit on there, eyeing through, my estimate is about there, quite to one side. Okay, it's to one side because this hand is folding round and there's less on this side than on this side here. So it will be over to one side, and hopefully I've got enough wood here and I've allowed for that. So that's my starting point, and what I need to do is drill through all the way through like that. So I'm going to hold this in the end vise like this, and as always you can't really do that with an end vise, just grip at one end. You do need to have another little thing at the far end to stop it, the vise twisting and it possibly breaking. So I've got a few of these that I keep, and this one matches the width of this wood here. So I know I can have this hanging free over there. I'm going to eye this through fairly vertical, that will help me. So that's tight. Here's my drill bit, Now this screw thread, I'll just give you a little tip here. Sometimes this is quite aggressive and pulls this into the wood very quickly. If it's too quick, if you don't, when you've been practicing with it, you can file a little bit off there, make those threads a little bit less acute, less aggressive. Anyway, so that's where I'm going to start, and we're just going to get that set in. So what I have to do is eye this through this way, okay, but also I want to be vertical here, I think. So I'm using this old card here just to make sure that it's vertical this way. Okay, so it's like that and like that, and I'm trying to hold that position. I'm going to just go straight through. It's a good idea to clear some of this stuff out of there. And there we are. It's broken out this end, of course. That's no problem. We're going to be carving around there. That should fit our... See, plenty of room, plenty of wood in there. So that's it. So we've got that hole there. Now everything is going to be working around this hole. This is going to be our starting point. So certainly make sure that's as good as you can get. Look, that's pretty good on that side as well.